following announcement has been paid for by the Wrestling Epicenter.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, guys.
Hello, ladies. Remember me? Let me talk to you, dummies.
It's now time
It's theater time. TikTok.
It's showtime!
for the longest running wrestling talk show in history.
We are huge. It's gonna be cool.
You're where it's at.
You smell like me.
Tune in each and every week.
You better keep listening, or I'll come out of your computer
And turn it on for you.
or else I'm gonna kick your stinking teeth in.
We've been known by a few names.
The needs of the many far outweigh the needs of the few.
The Interactive Interview,
Interactive interview. Oh, yeah.
Interactive interview.
The interactive interview. Interactive interview. The interactive interview.
Interactive Wrestling Radio,
Interactive wrestling radio.
Interactive Wrestling Radio.
Interactive radio.
Interactive wrestling radio.
Interactive wrestling radio.
The Blaze,
Blaze 1260 AM.
The Blaze.
The Blaze.
Blaze. The Blaze Rock.
and a lot of other names.
Weekend Warrior of Wrestling. The Pile Driver.
The Epa Wrestling Center.
3 Count Wrestling. The Hours Lab.
But it's all one show, the Wrestling Epicenter.
Wrestling Epicenter. The Wrestling Epicenter.
The Epicenter.
Wrestling Epicenter, dude.
The Wrestling Epicenter. Don't get off.
And your host from day one,
By ignorance or arrogance.
James Walsh.
Wake up, sleepyheads.
Dr. Carol S.
It all starts
What a rush. Oh, Boomer Sooner. Thank you very much. I got 2 words for you. Thumbs down. Breaking necks and cashing checks. I've heard a lot about you guys.
Check it out. Get out of my face. You win!
But I'm desperately out of time!
So what you gonna do when Blaze-a-mania runs wild on you?
now.
Happy Shark Week from the desert out here in Mesa, Arizona. You have tuned in to the Wrestling Epicenter, and my name is James Walsh, your humble host, your master of ceremonies for the past 18 years. So pleased that you tuned in and are listening to us this week, as we have 3 big guests joining us and they're all 3 big guys, and all 3 don't have a whole lot of hair, but I've got enough hair for all 4 of us. I'm the long-haired extraordinaire, after all, when it comes to professional wrestling. Our first guest is an MLW star. He is their, quote, new monster. And if you've seen this guy, he looks like a monster, but he's the nicest guy that I've talked to in a long while. I am talking about Logan Creed. Keep an eye out for this guy. 6'8", 315 pounds. When their cameras start rolling again and they start putting out new episodes of Fusion, I promise you this guy's going to skyrocket right to the top of that card. Very, very interesting character. Also joining us, 2 of the guys that made the most headlines in recent memory. Straight off their WWE release, returning to Impact Wrestling, at least one of them is. It's the Good Brothers, or the Good Brothers, however you want to inflect it. I'm talking about Carl Anderson and the Big LG, Doc Gallows. What a great interview with these guys. I got given about 15 minutes with each being one with Logan and one with Doc and Carl. So I hope you guys understand that I try to do the best I can with the time that I'm given. Hopefully down the road we're able to get them on again to talk about more stuff. But I think you're going to enjoy what we do talk about. Want to encourage everybody to check out MLW Fusion on YouTube, as well as Be in Sports, and keep an eye out because they're making deals every day. And of course, check out Impact Wrestling, Access TV every Tuesday night. Of course, on Twitch as well. Check out ImpactWrestling.com for updates, as well as they're making big deals all over the place as well. 2 of my favorite wrestling companies all in one show right here, the Wrestling Epicenter. If you haven't already, click that like button, click that subscribe button, and of course, come on by WrestlingEpicenter.com. Click the store button, new store by the way, WrestlingEpicenter.com/Zen, Z-E-N. If you haven't checked that out, please do. buy something, will you? Keep us going free. And I hope you guys enjoy these 2 interviews with 3 big guys right here on the Wrestling Epicenter.
This is filthy Tom Lawler, and right now you are in it. You are here. You are in the Wrestling Epicenter.
Oh, okay. Very nice. Very nice. All right. So you ready to get started? All right. I just interviewed the Good Brothers just a few minutes ago, so it's kind of been a busy day over here. A lot of You guys do look a little bit like. You know who I thought you looked like, though? Gosh, he's a little old. I'm going to show my age, but I'm only a few years older than you. The Warlord. Yeah, I think I see a lot of the Warlord in your face. I don't know. He is. All right, you ready to get started? All right, we'll get started here in 5, 4, 3, 2. Welcome back to Interactive Wrestling Radio. On the Newsmaker line with us right now is the guy who was described as MLW's, quote, new monster. And, geesh, that's a good description for him. He's a big dude who can work. Of course, I'm talking about Logan Creed. Mr. Creed, are you on the phone with me?
James, how's it going, buddy?
I'm doing great. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Just trying to survive the heat.
Absolutely. I'm out here, like we talked off air, and I'm out here in Arizona. It's like 110 today, and just like jump in the pool, and the pool's like bathwater. So there's no relief. All right. So I guess the question I have to start out with is, what brought you into the crazy, wacky, wild world of pro wrestling?
Of course, being a fan my entire life, attributed to it. And, but it actually, when I got into it, I was wrestling in college and, was offered an opportunity to start training. And, I literally had no idea how it worked and how I thought you just got, asked to come to the WWE, but I never really thought about how it all worked. I realized there was training and there were schools that you could go to. So, but yeah, no, it got introduced to me that way, and the rest kind of fell into place from there.
Awesome. And in looking at you, I could see maybe some of your early influences, maybe a little Sting in there, maybe a little Ultimate Warrior with the paint that you use. Am I accurate in that? Maybe Road Warriors as well?
No, absolutely. Growing up, it was the Road Warriors. It was Sting. I was an NWA kid, WCW kid growing up. I didn't really get introduced to the WWF until probably the Attitude Era. So,
wow.
I'd seen it, but down in the South Georgia, it was very much an NWA, territory, and that was what I was raised on as a kid because my grandparents watched it and everybody in the community watched it. So, yeah, I didn't really get an introduction to the WWF outside of, the bigger pay-per-view stuff until later in life.
Very cool. And you're kind of a rare breed in this day and age. And it's kind of funny to say that because 20, 30 years ago, there were a lot of big guys. But now you're probably the biggest guy in almost every locker room you go in because there's just so few of them now.
Right. No, and, it's funny, because for years, even being the big guy, wrestling has evolved so much that I still felt like I had to fight for a spot, more than maybe it used to be, because, like you said, 20, 30 years ago, I would have probably been hired just when I walked in the room,
Exactly, right.
But, now it's a different world and the sport has evolved and it's changed. And, I think it's changed for the better. I'm totally behind what it is and what it's become. And so, yeah, it's tougher to be a big guy because there's way more expected of us now than what it used to be.
Absolutely. And that's kind of what my next question was going to be. I listened to, it might be a dirty word, but I listened to a lot of Jim Cornette's podcast. And some of the things he says, I agree with.
I listen every week. It's not about whether or not I support it or not, or everything he thinks, because I don't. But I am a firm believer that the best way to learn and get better is to listen to every opinion possible, and to just pull from what everybody says, because that's the way to get better. And not everything he says isn't necessarily untrue.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
He just has his own way of saying it.
Exactly. A very, very unique way of saying it. But the way he describes some of the big guys who do a lot of stuff that they probably shouldn't do, I really would love for him to review one of your matches, because you don't do that. Yes, you do the high-flying stuff that is, for a big guy, incredible to watch, but it's not necessarily your lead-in. How did you develop your decided moveset that you've settled in on?
I really started studying The Undertaker, who I think is probably, as far as psychology-wise, he's the best big man that there ever was, because he was athletic, and he could do. Obviously, we've all seen what he was capable of doing, but he did it when it mattered, and he waited. And it meant something when it happened. And I think that was what I pulled the most from was, it's awesome to be able to do all of these things, but if you do them all the time, or, if it just becomes routine, then it takes away some of the effect, and it takes away the meaning, and it doesn't give people something to look forward to. If they know you can do it, that's awesome. And then when they get to see it, that's even better.
I totally agree. So in doing my research, I listened to a few interviews that you did before, and both interviews you mentioned that you took a hiatus from wrestling from about 2007 to 2011 or 12, thereabouts. I guess my simple question is, what were you doing during that time? Did you just decide that that wasn't for you, or what was your daily life then?
A lot of working and bartending, and basically bartending and bouncing, I guess, would be I was a dual purpose employee, but no, that was it. And I was kind of in and out of college and finishing up school, and it was just, I was frustrated with wrestling when I left. I wasn't really going anywhere. I wasn't getting opportunities. I didn't know how to get those opportunities. I wasn't the guy who went and was trying to make friends or even make connections. I loved wrestling, but I had friends at home, and so I just wanted to go wrestle. I didn't really make an effort to get to know people, and you can't do that and be successful in this business, because it is a business. So if you go to work and you completely aren't working with the people that you're working with, you're not going to last long. But I just didn't know. I didn't really have anybody to guide me at that time, and so I was frustrated. I knew I wasn't doing what I wanted to do, and I knew I could be doing better, but I wasn't getting better. So I just stepped away. And it wouldn't be, years later, it was actually, you just talked about the fact that you talked to the Good Brothers earlier. It was actually Luke who, after I had come back and started working again at a local show, he come through, and I met him, and he questioned who I was, and was intrigued by my size, obviously. And so I credit him a lot with getting me some of the opportunities early on to start traveling and to kind of get out to new shows and teach me, what it means backstage to be a business minded guy and how to make those connections. So yeah, he helped me a lot when I come back.
Awesome. And what did make you decide that it was time to give it another try?
Yeah, it was just I was tired of what I was doing. I was bartending. I was actually running a sports bar, and it was 7 days a week. I was there for 14 hours, 15 hours a day, literally going nowhere in life. And it was actually a conversation that I had with my mother on Christmas Eve. I had been working the whole night. I went to their house because we were doing, Christmas the next morning. So I just went there to sleep. And I come in, I'm sitting on the couch. It was like 4:00 in the morning, and she gets up and she walks in, and man, I had like a breakdown. And we started talking, and I just told her, I was like, I'm tired of this life. I'm not doing anything. I'm not going anywhere. And she just blatantly asked me, she's like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I want to wrestle. And she's like, well, stop talking about it and just go do it. And I think that was it. Like, it was just one of those, it was like, yeah, that's why am I not doing it? And so I did, and that's when I really took the step to say, I'm going to go all in and really make a run at this. And here we are.
Awesome. Well, that's awesome advice that your mom gave you. It was either that or you could have called John Tafford from Bar Rescue to do your... I'm just kidding. So anyway, I heard a really cool story you told, and I'm going to ask you kind of to reprise it a little bit. You mentioned that Austin Theory was a big influence on you when you guys were traveling together. How so?
Man, he's just one of those guys. He oozes self-confidence. And, before I got to know him, obviously he was young. I mean, he took off like a rocket. So it's such a short time from him starting to where he is now. But, it was just, I don't know what happened or why we clicked, but we did. And, we kind of became friends really quick. But I realized that the things that I'd heard about him were completely opposite of who he was. It wasn't that he was an egotistical person, or he knew who he was. He knew what he wanted. And that was a realization, even though he was, half my age. I was like, wow, like that's the mindset that you've got to have to be successful. It wasn't that he didn't care what people had to say. He listened to everybody, but he was just a student of the game. He was always studying on the road, 6 hours. He's watching matches and looking and studying. And that was being around him and listening to him and talking to him. It was like, it made me realize what it takes to get to that next level.
Awesome. And speaking of that next level, you've made it now. You're with Major League Wrestling, MLW, and that's what we're here to talk about. How did you end up there? How did you end up finally getting the call and making it to one of the big major promotions in wrestling?
It was right at the end of 2018. I had kind of made a decision. I've told this story on several podcasts. Mm-hmm. I've been going really hard for the last 5 years. And obviously I've made huge leaps and bounds, personally, professionally. And I told my wife, I was like, we're getting ready to have a baby. And I said, I'm about to be 35 years old in August of next year. And I was like, it's time to either do this or figure out, what the next phase of life is going to be, because I need to prepare for the future for my kids. And it wasn't one of those things where I was like, I'm just going to do it another year and that's going to be it. And if something happens, cool. I really took that step and started seeking that. So I started sending emails with my resume to anything I could find, every email address I could find, anybody I could get in contact with, I was sending it. And I heard no probably 200-300 times,
Wow.
And it was August of 2019. I had sent the email and resume to MLW, never heard anything, back. But it was August 2019 that I got a text and asking if I was in talks with anybody, and that was when it started. And I'm assuming, I've never heard the story, I don't know, but I'm assuming that that's where it come from. I know that Ron Nemi down in Florida was pushing hard for me, and he had talked to MSL about me, and so I credit him for some of that as well, because I think that he kind of put the bug in their ear about who I was. But yeah, so that was when we started talking, and it was funny because literally on my birthday is when I signed the contract. So
that's beautiful.
The cutoff date for what I said I was going to be done was when I signed the contract.
I love it. And when you came to MLW, you got involved with Dynasty, and those were some big dudes. You got Hammerstone, you got MJF, not necessarily as big, but definitely the best talk of the bunch, and Richard Holiday. Ryan Holiday is a baseball player. But you got those three guys involved. How cool was it to be involved with three of the really rising stars involved in MLW at that point?
Yeah, I've said it before. You're walking into a new company, you're the new guy. I didn't know anybody in the company on a personal level. So to walk in and be told that, you're going to be with literally one of the biggest groups in the company was a huge boost, confidence boost, because that told me that they were confident in what I could do. And, even though it changed quickly, that was even more of a boost. A lot of people question, why it was pulled out so quick. And it was literally because they saw something in me that they wanted me to be on my own. And that was great. I thought that was even more confidence that they were putting in me and my ability, because they didn't see that I needed that, that group, that I could be a standout on my own. So I wish that, we could have continued where we were headed before everything shut down.
Yeah.
But in due time, it's going to be okay. I've had people talk to me, and it's funny. They're like, "Man, I can't imagine where you're at mentally to know that you just got in the door and now everything stopped." And I haven't really thought about it like that. I haven't let it, I haven't let it be a negative. I've just took the time to work on myself, and that's all you can do.
Absolutely. And I mean, there's been guys from MLW who've gone and done matches, with AEW and them just to get themselves out there and do stuff because they're at least running at the moment. I mean, might we ever see you turn up on AEW Dark or anything like that?
I don't know. It's been discussed, and I know the people to talk to. I'm just not sure that I want to, honestly.
That's a good.
Some people may think that I would be crazy not to, but I feel like when you're with a company, if I'm working for a company, I'm honoring that company. And
awesome.
I take independent dates and I do independent shows, but I want to be known that if I'm working for you, I'm going to be loyal to you. And that's important to me. It was instilled in me from childhood. And so that's kind of why I'm not pursuing it. Because I'm loyal to who brought me on, and I want them to be able to use me and do what they want to do with me and make me a star.
It's been really weird being a wrestling fan, and I guess I'm a fan of all sports, almost all sports anyway, but it's been really weird because so much of what I love has just not been happening, and MLW is one of them. What's your thoughts on them not running shows and all the background stuff that they have been doing, though? Because even though they're not running shows, when they do come back, there's going to be so many more eyeballs available to watch the show than ever before.
No, and that's the thing is they're not just sitting and waiting. There's stuff happening behind the scenes. They got us, we're shooting vignettes and we're doing videos, and there's talks about what the future is going to be and what kind of stuff we're going to do. So it's not like it's just sitting and waiting. It's planning. You kind of went back to the drawing board, and maybe there was things that were going on that just weren't working, and so now you've got the opportunity to just change it and kind of scrap it and restart. So it's not always a bad thing to have that time off. You think about pro wrestling is the only sport that doesn't have an off season, and maybe it needs that. You know what I mean? Because it keeps, as a baseball fan or a football fan,
right?
When the season's over, well, the first thing you're doing is you've got that moment to relax, and then a month later, you're ready for football again, and you start hearing talks about who's going where and where this guy's going to be and who's going to be playing for this team, and so you start getting invested for the next season. And wrestling doesn't always give you that, especially if it's not really catching your attention and there's nothing happening that keeps you invested. It's almost like you're begrudgingly watching it every week just because you just love it that much you're going to, but there's nothing really there that's just making you excited to see it. You know what I mean?
Oh, I know exactly what you mean, and I did that for years. Literally years. They'd be like, I have to watch it because I love it, but there's a lot on this show I don't love. But I'm with you.
And I think, it's got to be tough for the guys. I mean, I've talked to guys, who are doing some of the AEW shows and guys that are down with the WWE, it's tough to not have that crowd, man, because that's what we are doing it for, and we feed off of the crowd so much. And I really feel like that's one of the reasons why Court made the decision not to, not just because of safety reasons, but MLW is a crowd-driven show.
Yes, it is.
The couple of shows that I've been to, the crowd is just a different animal, man. They're a different breed of fan, and the energy is so high from start to finish. And those shows are not short. You're there for hours, and these people are alive for every bit of it. And so it's really cool, and I really think that that's probably one of the biggest reasons, because we invest so much in the fans. Without them, what are we really doing it for?
Absolutely. It's difficult to watch, and I've watched some of the empty stadium baseball games, and they got like it's hard to describe what sound they put in the background. It's like the sound of chaos to mask the fact that there's nobody there, and it's weird.
It looks like
it's
a
just
game
so
of
weird.
Guess Who, like behind the batter box.
That's right.
Flip
That's
down
right.
the ones that aren't wearing a hat.
That's true. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the movie, because I know that you have been involved in the movie project. I've read a little bit about it. I'll be honest with you, I haven't seen that many trailers for it. But what's up with this Gutcruncher?
Well, unfortunately, it's at the it's being held back because of everything that's going on. It was supposed to be a part of the Atlanta Film Festival this year, which unfortunately got canceled. I have talked with the studio a couple of times when we were talking. We kind of got everybody grouped together with MLW about promoting it. But unfortunately, it's kind of at a standstill because they can't really do anything with it. It was going to be done at the Atlanta Film Festival, and then there was plans for it to be streaming on Shudder and possibly Netflix. But it's like everything else. It just everything just come to a halt. So we're not, I'm not really sure what's happening. I know eventually it will be released, and it will be out. But I'm just not sure when.
Awesome. Well, what was the experience like involved in acting rather than doing wrestling?
It was different, but at the same time, with what I was doing and playing that character, we did it. It was done in a wrestling ring, so I was very comfortable with what I was doing, and doing the stunts and things like that. They loved it. Even the stunt coordinator who was there, like, he literally just sat back and watched. He's like, I don't need to show you how to do any of this because you get it. And we were talking that day. I was like, man, I've got cameras sitting on four sides of me when I'm in a match. Like, it's so much easier with this one camera because there's so much easier to hide. So it was definitely a cool experience. I do see that I'll be doing it more. I actually, before COVID and before the quarantine, I was going to meet with a couple of people in Atlanta about doing more projects, and so
awesome.
that's still there. It hasn't went away, but there's just, right now there's just no reason to pursue it because there's nothing to do.
I'll name drop for a second. One of the last interviews he did before he passed, I did an interview with George the Animal Steel. And he told a story when he was on the set of Ed Wood. He mentioned something about, you got to learn to act. And Bill Murray, of all people, came in the room and put the hand on the producer's shoulder and said, he's a wrestler. He already knows how to act. And I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, no, and I think it was one of those things where, we would do a take and I'm looking around the room and everybody's like, man, that was great. And I'm like, no, come on, tell me what was wrong. Like, do we need to do it again? Like, could this be different? Because I'm so used to in wrestling, like, we critique so much in matches, and we're always looking for feedback from somebody. And so this is my first experience in acting and doing this, and I'm standing here like, there's no way that's like one and done. Like, come on, we could do it. Like, surely I can do it again. There's something I could do better. But no, everybody was super happy with what I did. And so I just took it for what it was and took it for their word.
All right, so when we're back in front of a crowd, maybe October, I heard, scuttlebutt, maybe for MLW. I don't know if that's
Maybe
been...
October. I do. I've seen October, and then I've heard Christmas. So we're just going to say end of the year.
Yeah, somewhere in that range. When it opens up again, who is it that you're looking forward to getting in the ring with most?
I think, it's either got to be Hammerstone or Contra Unit. That's the matches that I want the most. But I've said this before too. There's not really anybody in that locker room that I don't look forward to working with, because it's such a diverse crowd and it's such a diverse skill set for every guy there, and so there's just so many different matches to have, in that locker room with all of us. Any pairing that you put together, it's going to be different, and it's going to be something that it's not going to be the same thing you've seen before. And awesome. I love that. And I think they did that purposely in the guys that they brought in and the guys that they have under contract, because they wanted that diverse crowd. They wanted different styles, and you see it on every show.
Awesome. Well, I'll kind of wrap up with a softball for you, and that is, how can fans keep up with you online on social media?
You can follow me on Twitter at the Logan Creed, also at the Logan Creed on Facebook and Instagram. Everything that I'm doing or coming up is I share it on one of those three outlets, normally all of them. And then some of the independent shows that I do, Southern Honor, Due South, you can check out on IWTV, and awesome. PWX out of North Carolina runs on High Spots. So yeah, hopefully, I just did New South recently, and it's already up on IWTV, so you can check that out. And it's so good to see that slowly but surely shows are starting to run again, and it's good to see the fans coming out and practicing social distancing, and everybody's still having a good time. So
that's awesome. Well, I thank you so much for your time, and I wish you the best of luck, especially with MLW and all the good stuff that they got going on, since they're the ones who were gracious enough to help me set up this interview. Before I do let you go, do you mind if I ask for one last favor from you?
Of course.
You probably know already what it's going to be. Do you mind if I ask for a station ID, just saying this is Logan Creed and you're listening to Wrestling Epicenter?
Got it, man. This is Logan Creed, and you're listening to Wrestling at the Center.
Available now in the archives of InteractiveWrestlingRadio.com and WrestlingEpicenter.com. It's our 2005 exclusive interview with the one and only, positively, Chris Kanyon. Who's better than Kanyon?
Well, everybody knows the answer to that. Nobody, right? It always will be nobody.
Get it now in MP3 format at InteractiveWrestlingRadio.com and WrestlingEpicenter.com.
This is the phenomenal one, AJ Styles, and you listen to Weekend Warriors of Wrestling.
The devil lay in the distance.
Good brothers are in the house, apparently.
I sold my soul.
Welcome back to Interactive Wrestling Radio. On the Newsmaker line with us right now are two guys who have made just a few headlines in the past few weeks. Of course, I'm talking about the newcomers to Impact Wrestling. Well, one's a newcomer, one's a returning gentleman. The Good Brothers, Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson. Are you with me, gentlemen?
We're here.
Such a pleasure to have.
Yeah, we're here, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Just for their recognition purposes, could you guys say hi? So, Carl, could you say hi first so folks know the voice?
Hey, guys. Carl Anderson here. What's cracking?
And Doc, are you there, sir?
Gallows here.
All right, Doc Gallows. Good to talk to you guys both. All right, so I guess it's been a heck of a few weeks here for you, making a lot of headlines with your Impact Wrestling debut. So let's talk a little bit about Slammiversary, and how was the experience of appearing for Impact Wrestling?
It was Carl here. It was really cool just to be able to just to do that after being released and April and just kind of trying to think of, what's going to be the next step. And literally was on the phone with Scott D'Amore about an hour after everything went down. And just to be able to, be involved with Slammiversary and as big as it ended up being, it's just one of my top moments in professional in the 20 years that I've been doing this. And it was really exciting to be a part of that, to be honest.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It was great. It was a ton of buzz generated, and the pay-per-view delivered. Anniversary delivered. You saw the numbers that came out social media-wise. I think same way with when the buy rates and stuff like that come in. So we were super excited to be there, super excited to be a part of it, and very excited about the creative freedom that we now have.
Absolutely. You mentioned creative freedom, and I wanted to ask you guys, why did you choose Impact Wrestling? What was so alluring about Impact above all the other options that I'm sure were at your guys' disposal?
We've had a good go ahead, Gallows.
It's okay. I think that we both can agree that, Scott D'Amore and the Impact team, we're very, very gracious in adding things into this contract that we wanted, like a carve-out to, make our return to New Japan Pro Wrestling, which we plan to do, where they can move some dates around and stuff like that for us to be able to do that. But also the support, the co-branding is a huge thing for us. We got lots of outside projects, obviously Talking Shop-A-Mania, our pay-per-view that airs August 1st, it's Saturday at 9 p.m., and them being willing to support us on the front. It's advertising for us, so it's kind of it felt right for us to wear their hat and them to wear our hat. And, early on in this relationship, I don't think we could be any of that, because I think we're going to work together and this team's just going to continue to grow and grow and grow.
All right. Now, you mentioned talking shop. I mean, there's so much that you guys are involved with. You guys are probably the most busy of that crop of guys that left WWE in the way that you did. So could you tell me a little bit about Talking Shop, maybe the pay-per-view and the beer brand?
Well, Talking Shop is our podcast.
Shop-A-Mania. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, Talking Shop is the podcast that drops every Sunday morning on the MLW network. You can search it on all podcast platforms. And from that, we always include these different characters that we always have. Like Gallows and I end up making each other laugh on the road all the time anyway. We make other people laugh. It's just kind of what we do. It's what we enjoy doing. And Talking Shop-A-Mania ended up being Gallows' brainchild about an hour after we got fired. And he realized he wanted to run a pay-per-view in his backyard, and he wanted to make it a parody of professional wrestling and really just be as creative and as funny as we know that we can be. And we've always said that if things are making us laugh, like, then you're making our fans laugh, because our people that follow us seem to find the stuff that we're doing funny when we're being, our most creative. And Talking Shop-A-Mania came from Gallows' brain, and I'll let him explain in his insane brain how he came up with it. And it's actually an insane genius.
Yeah, it's just, we're coming off of the Boneyard match, which is this epic thing in professional wrestling. It's the first time AJ Styles and The Undertaker meet, but it has to be filmed cinematically. So, as Carl said in an earlier interview, I don't know that it would have been received as well. If we would have been at Raymond James Stadium and had 80,000 people there, they wouldn't have done a cinematic match. But because of this pandemic, because of the way the world is, those guys had to make the best out of, the situation that they were given, and they did a great job of it. And here we are 12 days later, 11 days later, whatever, we're on this list of releases, and I just thought, with the big personalities that we have, if we don't parody this, we're missing a huge opportunity. And then as we started to talk about it, thought of some other characters we wanted to involve and the cameo appearances, and you're going to see a lot of people that you've seen in very serious television roles in professional wrestling step away from that and just embrace the comedic side of wrestling, which is something that we all grew up loving. So, take this with a grain of salt. Enjoy yourself. It's supposed to be fun. It's not to disrespect or make fun of anyone. It's a good time, and I think it's going to go down in history as wrestling's greatest parody.
Absolutely. Is this in kind of the same vein as Southpaw? Southpaw Regional?
No,
Completely different.
This is the TVMA version. Southpaw, I believe, was basically stolen from a lot of the Sex Ferguson stuff that I have always done. I think a lot of people thought that was kind of funny within WWE, and we were able to do it, but they cut a lot of our stuff out of it, and it's not nearly as funny without the colorful language. This is an adult-themed product, and I think that's part of what makes it funny. In the era where we're not saying these things on television, pay-per-view outlet where there is colorful language, there is colorful innuendo, it's for your smarter adult fan to enjoy, and I hope that they do.
All right. Well, back to Impact.
I always wanted to say, sorry.
Go ahead. You go ahead, sir.
Regional, Southpaw Regional Wrestling wasn't as funny as it could have been, and I think when me and Gallows had a chance to watch it back, we were like, "Oh man, it could have been so much funnier." But they ended up including some different things that didn't need to be that way, and I think Talking Shopomania and our world is going to take it to a different level that will be funny. But that's that.
Awesome. Well, I've only got to hear about 30 seconds of it, but I got to say, and it's a weird question, I acknowledge that in advance, but your guys' theme song somehow oddly gets stuck in your head almost instantly. What is it, and did you guys pick it?
Well, it's the Devil's in Your Six, and it's something that I was putting out on social media, and our friend Rocky Romero, who's talented in more ways than I'll ever be, said this should be a song, and he went to work putting it together, and we absolutely loved it when we heard it, and then he cleaned it up and made it even better, and it does, like, it's funny to say this, but I get stuck in my own head when I hear it, which I think is a good thing. And I know that it drops tomorrow on Spotify. You can pre-order it now, and I think it'll be available on a lot of different platforms and stuff, so you can grab that song and have it stuck in your head all the time, we hope.
Awesome. And we mentioned cool theme songs. Aces and Eights was a cool theme song as well, and they kind of pushed that button a little hard heading into Slammiversary about a possible reunion of Aces and Eights. Did you guys still think that is a possibility to happen down the future, or do you think that was just to whet the appetite of the classic TNA fan?
I think that it was a bit of a teaser, but this is professional wrestling. You can never say never to anything, and I think that at Impact we're going to deliver what people want to see. So it would depend on who's playing the roles and who's going to be involved. But I mean, you can never say anything. But yeah, that was definitely that theme song was a cool one too. That one was one that used to like our Bullet Club theme in Japan, one of the best wrestling songs ever. Very underrated.
Absolutely, I agree with that too. Absolutely. So it's probably difficult to describe because everything's a little different right now, but what are the major differences backstage from your last... This is for Doc, by the way. Just no offense, Carl. You'll get the next one, I promise. But what is the major differences between your time backstage last time around with Impact and this time around?
It's just a different cast of characters. I mean, literally, it's a very, very different locker room. I'm trying to think if there's anybody there now who was there when I was there the first go-around. Maybe Chris Sabin, I think, he was still there when I was there. But, I mean, other than that, Hernandez is back now. But other than that, it's completely different. And, there's a lot of new up-and-coming young talent that we weren't real familiar with, but we got a dose of at Slammiversary and over this last set of tapings that, I think I can speak for both of us and say we're very impressed with. I think that there's a huge upside. I think there's huge potential there. It seems to be a really good locker room. It seems to be a good team, with a mix of veterans and young up-and-coming talent. So it was a welcome feeling, and we enjoyed ourselves.
All right. And, Carl, you guys will be taking on Reno Scum tomorrow on Impact Wrestling on Access TV. What is your thoughts heading into tomorrow night's big in-ring debut for the Good Brothers?
It's exciting because it was for us to be in a different environment because, all we did was wrestle in Japan together for 3 straight years. And then we went to the WWE for 4 straight years. And it was like, we thought we were going to end our career in the WWE, or at least that was our thought process when we signed a new long-term, multi-year contract. And to go into the Impact Zone and be in there was like a breath of fresh air, man. And it was just exciting. You're going to see the Good Brothers be the Good Brothers. I mean, it was just, and you're going to see us with a renewed passion and happiness that we lost, in the last couple of years. And so it's and Reno Scums are good, talented guys that we've known for a long time, and it's something definitely to tune into.
All right, and Impact Wrestling is full of just young talent just coming off the rafters, and almost literally with their in-ring style, Ace Austin being one of them, and so many others. Any of the guys that you are looking forward to most stepping in there with that you haven't yet?
Yeah, 100% I want to get in there with Eddie Edwards. I mean, I've known him for a long time, and I want to get in there with him. He's the Impact champion, and that's, at the end of the day, that's both of our goals, is to be the champion. We want to be tag team champions. We want to be the heavyweight champion. We want to get as many eyes on this brand as we can. And I just talked to Ace Austin, over the tapings, and he's 23 years old, man. I mean, how much and as good as he is at that age, like that's. I was always pretty good. I don't think I was that good at 23, but that's how much potential he's got, and it's impressive with that locker room, and we're beyond excited to be there, and like we want to be there for a long, long time now. We want eyes to be on Impact, and we want to start, getting our friends to start jumping ship and coming over there.
Right. There was a ratings report that just came out last week. Usually don't see ratings reports for Impact Wrestling. I don't know what the reason is for that, but you guys don't really see that. But the ratings look pretty good. You guys have definitely moved the needle upwards. Do you guys take a lot of credit for that, or you just think it's a group effort?
Well,
it's us. It's us.
I don't understand
we did
exactly
that.
how the ratings work, but I was on a call with an Impact executive yesterday who was explaining to me that wasn't even all the way accurate. We actually did a little better than that. So I think that the inclusion of the new faces and the already hard-working roster is a recipe for success there. Don't sleep on Impact. If you've been sleeping on Impact, it's time to wake up and change the channel. Tuesday nights, 8 p.m., Access TV on the Twitch app worldwide. Tune in, watch this show. Give it a chance, because I think you're going to keep watching. It's going to be great.
All right, I'm glad to see you guys in Impact. I have one last question for you, then I'll let you guys go. It's probably the question. It's the elephant in the room, or if the elephant was allowed in the room. And are you guys excited to see a return to potentially, as we're hearing little bits here and there, maybe having some kind of a live crowd in the near future, maybe by the end of the year?
Absolutely.
It's very, very, very exciting. I'm a wrestling promoter here in the state of Georgia as well. We're going to try on August 22nd to do like a socially distanced drive-in wrestling show, because just the area is hungry for it. I think the world's hungry for it. And hopefully when it's safe enough, I mean, absolutely. There's nothing like, the adrenaline rush you get from performing in front of a live crowd. And I think the crowds are going to be even more engaged than they were before, because there's a hunger to get out and do stuff and to be entertained. So that's what we're looking forward to.
All right. Last favor, can I ask from you guys a station ID, a liner, just saying this is the Good Brothers. You can put your own spin on it, and you're listening to Interactive Wrestling Radio.
This is the Good Brothers, and you're listening to Interactive Wrestling Radio.
The preceding announcement was paid for by the Wrestling Epicenter.
On the listen, and if you like what you heard, I'm glad. If you didn't like what you heard, well, go fuck yourself.
Most people don't hung up on me.
We had a lovely conversation.
What a show.
Ooh, mercy, daddy.
On your radio dial.
Don't hang up. Bye-bye.